institutional investment into businesses, less than 1% goes to Latina and Black female entrepreneurs.
Hi, everybody. How you guys doing today? All right. Well, I want to send a huge thank you to these amazing ladies on stage who have joined me to talk everything about their financial career. We're gonna get personal. We're gonna get into it. To begin, I want to ask you ladies to take our audience who are on different points of their journey. But let's start from the beginning. When starting a business, how did you ladies decide who and what advice you listened to? And before you get into that, let's do intros, because we're gonna start from the way beginning. Jamila, if you don't mind starting off, since you're here in Brooklyn stand up, Brooklyn in the building? All right. Jamila, let's start off with your...
And your outfit is fabulous.
Thank you, girl.
I'm Jamila Wright. I'm one half of the Brooklyn Tea Company. We have a tea shop in Brooklyn and Atlanta, and we ship all over the country at this point now. But it really started in our Crown Heights apartment. We're bagging up teas. And doing pop-ups and festivals and farmers market and a lot of things that a lot of us startup entrepreneurs do. We always wanted a brick and mortar, but we're just too broke to have one, honestly. And after a year of just saving up, being scrappy, I know we're gonna talk a little bit about more investments.
We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it.
Yeah, but really it started with my husband introducing tea to me when we started dating. I'm a Southern girl. He's the Brooklyn-born guy, and he has a Jamaican household, came from a Jamaican household. Ooh. And he would bring me tea on when I would come to visit. We were on tea dates, and it felt so engaging and thoughtful, and I mean simply just romantic. And so I'm like, okay, I want to learn more about like this guy. So we fell in love with this tea journey together, and it was just a beautiful way to authentically get to know the person across the table from you. And it was an aha moment for like, let's replicate this in a form of a business for others, really.
I love that. Leah, please, you have such an impressive resume. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Leah Williams, and I'm the CEO of Digital Undivided, also known as DID. And what we're doing is we're disrupting the investment pipeline of institutional funding to Black and brown women entrepreneurs. Digital, and I'll tell you my entrepreneurial story too, but Digital Undivided, you've heard the stat. It's quite saddening, and we want to move the needle, which is that of the trillions of dollars that are coming in institutional investment into businesses, less than 1% goes to Latina and Black female entrepreneurs. I mean, it's just stunning. And Digital Undivided was anchored in research starting in 2012. That number has not shifted. And so in the last number of years, we've been really working through a number of programmatic offerings and other ways that we're really trying to build out that ecosystem. So I'm brand new in this job. I didn't found it too. A wonderful woman founded this organization, and I'm the fourth CEO starting very recently. 20 years ago or so, I was the co-founder of an organization, and it was actually had a little bit of seed investment backing. So it was a situation kind of like what our prior panelist was saying, where a client, so when I was trying to bring onto a client at a public affairs firm, I was the regional director of a public affairs firm, and one of those clients that we really wanted to work with, it was a Latino-owned telecom company, really wanted to work with they wanted to work with a woman and a person of color-led company, because that was who their investors were and that's who their backing was. And so myself and some others took a risk, and we founded this boutique firm. I led that for 7, 8 years before I went back to practicing law again. So I'm thrilled to be here today and talk about financing, talk about the journey of an entrepreneur.
Yes, the two of you ladies are so amazing. I want to rewind a little bit and talk about the beginning of your journeys. I feel like in 2023, so much business advice is thrown at us, whether that's via podcasts or business managers, online forums, and so on and so forth. When you first started out in launching your businesses, how did you filter out the noise, specifically as Black women? How did you decide who and what to listen to?
I did not. Did a terrible job. Because for me, I misinterpreted wanting to seem humble and grateful to taking in every bit of everyone's piece of advice, opinion, suggestion. I thought that it meant something about my character if I created a boundary and a filter for that. And so it was over time, not in the beginning. I would say the first 2 years, it was just like, okay, you got something to say, come and say it, right? And that was exhausting. It drained me, and it led me in misdirection, right? And sometimes it spoke against like my inner self. And so over time, I just more clarity and more confidence in saying, having this filter for my business in particular, right? Not yours, mine, is me ultimately protecting the brand and me ultimately giving the customer the best.
Yes, I love that. Leah, as someone who's worked in numerous fields and held C-suite positions, first starting off, how did you block out the noise and learn who and what to listen to?
Well, I think that for me, one of the things that I tell folks today is, in terms of especially being an entrepreneur, but this holds over to other pieces, is to really think about your business. What kind of a business are you in or wanting to be in? Because as you said, there's a lot of noise and a lot of people. There's somebody who has a professional services business that's giving you advice about what to do when you manufacture products. And while there are some consistencies across all businesses, the channels, the relationships, the issues that you have to present, the financing, frankly, and how you have to think about that money and think about your financing is different if you're producing a product and you have distribution channels and you may have regulatory hurdles to get to versus if you're doing professional services. So the first piece, and I mentioned this, we were talking about this, the first piece I always tell people is to really think about what business are you in? Are you in who is your client? Is it the consumer? Is it another business? Are you providing a service? Are you providing a product? These types of things help you filter away the noise of individuals that are providing that to you. And then the next stage is also thinking about where is your business today? Are you in a planning phase, an ideation phase? Have you already started? And then where do you want it to go? And these are really critical pieces of a block that help you kind of, when people give you, like you said, everyone wants to give you advice. And so being willing to listen to that advice doesn't mean you're willing to take it. And that dates back to when I was a very small child. I'd always be like, well, thank you for your opinion. But that is very true today when you're an entrepreneur, and your time as an entrepreneur is so important. And if I could give you one piece of things to think about, is to really distinguish when you're working on your business, means you're thinking about where your business is going, where your finances are, versus when you're working in your business. And they are two very different things, no matter the type of business you're in. So I strongly recommend that if you're in a moment of working in your business, that's not the moment to listen to people's advice about working on your business. And when you're working on it, think about your business, what its structure is, and where you're going. And that will help you filter away maybe very insightful, great advice, but not for your type of business.
Definitely. Ladies, I hope you're taking notes, okay? Jamila, I want to throw it to you next. And I feel like after entrepreneurs take in the advice, the appropriate advice for their businesses, whether that be through mentorship or so on, the next step would be building a passion for your business. You mentioned you started off as an educator, and from that experience, you took such a liking to positive spaces and culture, which you implemented in Brooklyn Tea. Tell me a little bit about taking that inspiration from one career and implementing it to another.
Yeah, I think so much of who you become is a lot of who you are already destined to be. As a child, I was always the mom. We played house. Like I wasn't gonna be the daughter or the niece. Like I had to be the mom. You know, I was always wanting to be in a space where I could kind of cultivate and set the stage for whatever the temperature was going to be, which is why I think I also love teaching, is because I got to set the temperature of what it was going to feel like, how people would be able to express themselves. I've always wanted people to feel joyful and to feel seen and to feel dignified. Like that was always something I was curious about. Like how do I mold a place just so it can be that? And so then I became the dean of culture for the school, right? And so it was just, now I get to do that for parents. I get to do that for teachers. And what I learned in my first year of teaching was that it's not just something that falls into your lap, right? You have to foster it. You have to figure out what is the common language that you build with people. What is the rapport you build with people, even little people, first graders, right? What are the rules of the game that you all create in order to, to create community? So I've always loved the idea of being able to give that to people. And so with the shop, it was like, this is a free-for-all. There's no boss, right? There's no one except for me to say like what this place gets to be for others. And so for me, it was just always there. It was just being untethered, right? And having all the reins and all the say to do really what I envision.
I love that. Leah, if you could follow up as a woman who has held both passion and position in industries between nonprofits, law, public policy, public affairs, and more, how did you take that inspiration into birthing Digital Undivided?
Well, so here, I came to Digital Undivided here just a while ago, and Digital Undivided is, I wasn't the founder, but now I'm taking it to its next chapter. And here's what I would say, the reason why. Well, first of all, give yourself the space and the time to kind of anchor into what you're doing. Everyone who knows me hears the story of how I came to Digital Undivided. I was sitting on a beach in Spain with my children in camp because I needed a break after the pandemic. And this opportunity came this way. And so why did I end up here, and what's the passion piece that I bring? I'm a trained lawyer, and I've also done public affairs and lots of other things. And for me, my next role, I really wanted to make sure that I was making an impact in our community, in our society, that really had a catalytic effect on others and on our world. And I really do believe that right now we are at an inflection point. We are absolutely at an inflection point in our society. And so for me, I thought, how can I bring my best self, my greatest skill set, to something that really turns a movement in terms of this inflection point. And I'm on my soapbox, so I'm gonna say, I think it's no accident that we're here today as Black women entrepreneurs, and sitting at the Naval Observatory as a Black woman, Madam Vice President, the first ever in this history. We are at a moment in our country, and I wanted to just be in a place where I could really give my best self to that moment. And so Digital Undivided is where I decided I was gonna do that.
And that you have done. All right, ladies, let's get into it. The good, the bad, and the ugly of your financial journeys. Yes, let's get to the fun stuff. Our audience is comprised of women who are at different points of their financial journeys, whether that's learning how to gain capital, investors, or those who want to take the grassroots route and build through community and donations and so on. The two of you have very different journeys in terms of financial journeys, but I think that's so perfect for this audience because it gives the variety in terms of how you can take your path. Jamila, let's start off with you. The good, the bad, and the ugly of your financial journeys. Let's talk about it.
I guess we started with the ugly first. We'll do the good.
Let's get into it.
And I already told you, I said, if it feels like I'm being too surface, make me dig deep. I want to give
Never.
real numbers too, if I can.
Never.
Help y'all skip some pitfalls. And then I want to mention earlier, you were talking about how to funnel out the noise or have conversations. And if you haven't already, form focus groups. Do that. And before we opened our shop, we had focus groups, and so we had these very specific questions so we could funnel people's energy and passion to help and support us in a direction we wanted them to go, right? So it was more useful in that way. For numbers, again, I mean, how many of us are first generation entrepreneurs out there? Right? So there's no uncle, can I get even $5K? There's no, or even $500, right? At this point, I'm a first generation college graduate, and so the person that usually gets asked for money is me, right? And I didn't have a lot of it. I'm a teacher salary, right? And we had no proof of concept. And so there were no banks that were interested, and we went to several, right? One even told us, like, hey, when you make your first, I think it was like 2 or 3 million, we'll throw you 10, no questions asked. Great, I'll see you then, right? What does that mean? And so honestly, we sourced it from a couple of different ways. One, I emptied out my retirement savings from my years of teaching, which, I mean, wasn't even that many. At that point, my retirement savings was $40K. So I emptied that out, not to mention, there's 10% you got to pay back to the government when you take it out before you're your retirement age, right? So that wasn't even a true $40K, but I did dump that out. We applied for an SBA loan, which isn't the best interest rates, I might add, but not the worst, and it was what we needed and we can get our hands on, and we really had to create a viable business plan, right? And so if you're like us and there's no uncle to throw you money, you really have to lean into that business plan that you probably were trying to get away from doing this whole time. And I mean, we had it detailed. Like, we had that sheet, we had it down to the estimated cost of teacups, the estimated cost of the chairs that would be in the space. We wanted to show them how well researched we were so we could be undeniable, right? And so it wasn't about just having this quick synopsis and this cute mission statement. It was showing how detailed we were, that you could trust us with your money. And so if you haven't done that in your business plan and you're looking for money, I encourage you to go back and see, like, how many layers can you peel back and be as specific as possible. So you're speaking to your astuteness to your business, right? Lastly, we entered the Brooklyn Library's business pitch competition. They have one every year. We got funding from that. We got funding after we needed the funding. And so just making sure that money is rolling in when you expect it to, because the debt will always be on time, right? So just make sure the money that you need for it is on time. And I mean, honestly, we started in 2019 in terms of opening our stores, and we had a lot of initial success, and then we were met with a pandemic, and we were brutally devastated for the first 3 to 4 months because 85% of our revenue was dependent on foot traffic. And we hadn't really built out our online component. Luckily, we had it, and we did get, someone mentioned earlier in the announcement, we got a shout out from Shonda Rhimes. She tweeted us, and we got featured in Beyonce's Black Parade list. And yes, thank you. And we were ill-equipped for the moment. We were ill-equipped. We were in a moment in time where we had low staffing because we had to knock down staffing because there was no store, right? And we had reduced equipment, we had reduced inventory, and now we went from 10 sales a month to 100 sales in a day, right? So we're trying to scale up in a moment that we were unprepared for, and that creates funding, but it also creates a little bit of a slip too, because you're trying to buy all this inventory and get all the staffing and this equipment at rates that sometimes feel a little bit unsustainable, right? So for us, it's been really a crazy ride. We were able to sustain and find some profitability in 21 and 22. But honestly, 2023, I don't know about you all, it's been trash. Like, 2023 has been trash. And I just want to say that openly in case you are experiencing that your 2019, your 2020 felt more profitable than your 2023. It has been that way for us. And a lot of it is because people have kind of stepped away. Corporations have started to step away from that Black Lives Matter, support Black business momentum that was going. We see what's happening with Fearless Fund, right? So a lot of that energy has dwindled to some degree or even a large degree. And so you're fighting at this point for your relevancy, right? And just know that if you're experiencing that I've talked to so many small business owners, particularly Black women founded businesses, and that is a true experience that we're all having. And so what I can say right now is we're just trying to figure out how do we package ourselves so that we are never, that we're never to fail, right? So how do we now say, okay, let's get into corporate offices. Okay, now let's get into schools. Like, where can we be so we're never resting on one part of the recipe to be able to stay alive?
Well, that's just true advice right there. So I'll build on that a little bit and also pull out a few threads of what you said that are just absolutely so true. So first of all, for financing, and Digital Undivided is an ecosystem that does try to connect with investors and financing. And so all of you have in your bags, I'm just going to look commercial break here, a card that has a QR code in the back. Put your phone up there, you can get onto the list to get more information about it. So for finance, let me give you some very tactical, specific things that she was mentioning. Number one, business plan. Absolutely. Business plan and operational plan. Now, what is the difference? Your business plan is what's going to tell you, yes, what are the cost of goods sold, because you're actually billing those costs. That means all the different materials. If you're a professional services business plan, you need to do the same thing. How much is your time? You're actually utilizing your time. You might be utilizing a few other subcontractors or other professionals. How much time will they take into this particular item? Create kind of, if you do marketing and you have campaigns, you want to create a model campaign and think about how much time is it, and then how much of that you want for, obviously there's revenue paying your own bills, but there's a piece of this even in professional services where you want to invest back into the business. And so you want to make those decisions on a piece of paper with the numbers and look at the market for that. So business plan, operational plan. Now you're in the place, I'm the same. Notwithstanding the business that I had founded where there's no person there, I'm a first out of high school, first out of community college, first out of college. My younger sisters now own businesses, but I'm the, oh sis, can you loan me? And the first thing I say is, where's the business plan? And so that's really critical. But the other things to know are, I've talked to a number of entrepreneurs, asking them recently, what they all would say is, give yourself an extra 6 months on whatever idea you think is your best idea before you launch into that idea. You always hear folks kind of hear about the side hustle. That's a little bit of what your side hustle gives you, is some time to prove the concept, some time to allow you runway while you're still receiving funding from that day job. 6 months at a minimum. If you have a fantastic, fabulous idea, except for the one that suddenly goes viral, but in general, if you have a fantastic business idea that's sustainable, it will be sustainable in 6 months. So give yourself that 6 months to do that business planning and that operational planning. Second thing to know, institutions give you money when you don't need the money. And they never give you enough of it. Because the lending institutions are in the business of making money. And so they want to give you money when you're making them money, which is why they said, when you hit 2 billion, we'll give you 8 more because you've already done your proof of concept and gotten there. However, the thing to know is that, like the presenter here that was before us, who created the makeup line, there are organizations out there, and there are a lot more investors that are focused on business. They know the stats that less than 1% of money is going to Black and Latino women-owned businesses. I mean, it's not much more for all women businesses, frankly, and it's not much more for businesses started by people of color. We're still in this very low single digits. And so those organizations are great financial institutions. I would say educate yourself also on how to get ready to be in front of them. A lot of people do what you did, which is find a pitch, have your business plan, have your product or your services, look for pitch competitions. You may or may not win. The pitch competition may give you a little bit of capital, but the thing it gives you is a network and services, and you've got to leverage that. So go into it with that in mind. Even if you don't win, you want to win the connections that you get out of those pitch competitions. There's grant programs out there. There's often a lot of local funding grant programs too. So look for lots of those things. Those are some very tangible items that when you're at that startup phase, or if you're in a restart phase, that you can go out and actually get and look for as you're building that runway for your product or service.
Definitely. Well, so many gems have been dropped. Can we give these ladies a round of applause, please? Before I ask more questions that I have, we're going to open the floor up to questions from you ladies. So if anyone wants to line up by the mic there, we'll get that going.
Hi. You guys are so beautiful. Rashida Frazier here. I am a business development strategist with a company I started 12 years ago called Empowering Greatness, Inc. I have a question that I would, or just a request. Can you touch a little bit on how being prepared with your personal finances and credit will help you obtain those initial business financing and credit? Because we talk a lot about the business side, but we don't talk about what we need to do personally to get to that when we're starting these businesses.
So I can help with that. Credit. Make sure you manage your credit score. Make sure you manage your debt. I know that a lot of folks, in terms of bootstrapping, you think to yourself, well, I'm going to just take out a lot of credit cards and loans and things like that. And some folks have been very, very successful. But the downside of that is when you do turn then to the institutional investor, they're looking for you to personally guarantee this. So if you go to your banks, and I've done this, the business I had, we did pull a line of credit just to manage operational cash. And they're looking at your individual credit score. They're looking at your history. So it's very important to keep your credit up or to work on developing your credit over time. That's just really critical in terms of looking at taking any sort of loans or debts or things like that. And managing that, if you do have credit cards and things, really managing so that your the amount of use of your credit on a particular balance is, there's a sort of rule of thumb of keeping it below 60% of whatever's available, never going above that, and paying it off a little bit early. These types of things affect your credit score. So
I would also add, thinking about what assets do you have or you can build before starting your business, because you might need to leverage those in order to get the loans or to lock in the lease agreements that you need. For us, I had to leverage my home in Atlanta, right? That had to be leveraged for my lease to be sealed, again, because we didn't have a proof of concept. And of course, there's tons of ways that you can do that differently and speak to financial advisors about how to do that best. But ultimately, if you don't have a lot of money, if you're like us, we didn't have a lot of startup capital, we didn't have proof of concept, there might be other asks for you. So think about what assets, again, that you have or that you could build before seeking out loans.
Next, I love we have so many ladies with questions.
Hello, my name is Bri Franklin. Thank you for this conversation. So I'm actually very well positioned to take advantage of this advice. I started in the 501c3 space through my nonprofit, the Prosperity Project, helping rehabilitate debt-constrained Black women. And then as we've grown and accelerated, we've seen obviously the things you spoke to of the change in appetite and attitude towards funders trying to help Black women. So we're now trying to solve our own problems, take control of our destiny by launching a for-profit fintech venture to help gamify avoiding debt constraint for kids. And my question is just human to human, how do you keep the fight going in you when you're the only one who can save and lead and creatively grow your business despite kind of everything that was giving you stability early on slipping away?
Amazing question.
I personally like to write a letter of resignation every 2 months to Brooklyn T.
Can't do that, Jamila. You can't do that.
I type it out though, and I list my reasons for leaving. And it's a good exercise for me. One, when you're running a business that's all your own, or even if you have a partner, it's easy that passion turns into feel like a trap, right? You don't have another exit, right? And that trapped feeling is what can give you the most anxiety, right? And make you depressed or feel overwhelmed because you feel you've locked yourself into a box. And so instead, I'm like, I'll just quit, you know? And, it's kind of like a psych your mind thing out. I do it, I write it out, and then I say, okay, well then what are all the reasons to stay, right? And so far over the past 5 years, I've always written out more reasons to stay than I did to go. And I'll let you know if that ever changes. I'll make a public announcement. But so far, giving myself that, just even that emotional and mental out to say, you own this, you control this, this doesn't control you, has helped me in those moments where it feels all too much. Because honestly, it feels a lot pretty much daily. Again, I'm self-taught entrepreneur, still building my business acumen as I'm going. So most of the time, I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, okay? So that's been helpful for me. I'm not sure if that's the best advice, but that's what I've been doing.
That's a little bit similar. I do like to journal. I did journal when I was an entrepreneur, and then I'll go back to the advice I gave earlier. In that journaling, I would just separate myself from when I'm working in the business. So that's when you write the letter to resign. And when I'm working on the business, oh, what if so-and-so resigned? But no, in seriousness, when you're working in the business and thinking about it and then just pushing the other stuff out of your mind is how I've done it. And then when you're working on the business, literally sitting down and thinking about it separate from yourself. Mm-hmm. And so that's the way that I've been able to manage it over the years.
And when it feels too overwhelming, I really had to stop talking to my closest friends and talk to my closest business friends. I was growing pretty resentful of the people I loved the most because they didn't get it. And they were giving me these lovely, lovely, well-meaning platitudes that were pissing me off. And when I talk to my closest business friends, or even not that close, we're able to connect on just the ickiness sometimes of being a business owner that no one else sometimes doesn't even allow you space to express it because they're just telling you about the blessing. And I get it, it's a blessing. But I want to talk about how stuff is not working out for me right now, right? And they hold space for you in a way that sometimes even your dearest friends can't. So I suggest that too.
Yeah, we talked about that advice, Jamila, who to listen to and who to filter out, who not to listen to. Mm-hmm. Next question.
Letter loading, thank you.
Hi, y'all. Hi. All right. Okay. I'm Talisa. I'm really happy to be here. Quick question. So I guess I would direct this to Jamila since you're one of the founders up there who have pitched. So pitching competitions can be really, really excellent for like expanding your network, your brand, and accessing capital. But can you share like 1 or 2 tips that are helpful for people who want to protect their business idea? Because I am a 12-time entrepreneur and I do know the benefits of a pitching competition and winning it, but I also do know the rivalry and the competition that we create as a result of winning or losing that competition. So just one tip that you can give entrepreneurs in here to help us protect our business ideas when pitching. So not just maybe not giving away our secret sauce, I don't know, whatever it is, but thank you.
Great question. I'll do my best to answer it. If there is something that is a part of your business to trademark or to copyright, anything to that degree that you can get going sooner than later, do that. But I wouldn't let any of that get in the way of pitching your idea or your plan, because no one's going to do it like you. You know, I mean, we're a tea company. Come on. Like, tea has been around for like 5,000 years. There's a lot of white people who sell tea. You know, like, there's a lot of tea out there, but no one sells tea like Brooklyn tea. You know?
Jamila, can I stop you real quick? Ladies, she is one of the 2 black-owned tea rooms in New York City. So let's just clarify that, okay? Sorry, I had to give you your flowers.
Thank you. Don't toot my horn now.
I'm a toot it, Leah.
But, you know, I just strongly believe, you know, there's so many times people who come into our shop and, you know, they're also a black couple looking to start a tea shop, like almost identical pathway. And I congratulate it. I elevate it because I know they're going to do it in their own way. And it's going to be very hard to mimic to that fine of a degree what me and my man have accomplished, right? So I was like, I wish everybody their best, right? And I want to see them succeed because we always need more in our industry, right? We talk about these numbers and these statistics. There can never be but so many. So, you know, do your legal work, right? Get those documents signed, but keep it moving. Get your money.
Leah, one point of advice.
Well, you're talking to a lawyer, so.
I know it's hard to narrow it down, but if you had to pick one.
One point of advice I'd say is when one of us succeeds, all of us succeed. I would say the same thing. Just do the protections that you do, but listening to our first entrepreneur that was up here earlier, it's about doing your business in your way and doing it 100% that way. And if someone's trying to do your business in their way, they will not be as successful as you will in your business in your way. So that's what I would say.
Definitely. All right, Jamila, Leah, thank you, ladies, so much. You have shared with us such great points of advice. Everyone go check out Brooklyn Tea and Digital Undivided. They offer so much, and I'm excited to see what comes next from you, ladies.
Thank you.
Let's give them one more round of applause, ladies.